In today's video, we're continuing our coverage on Avengers Doomsday, but we're going one step further than that. We are talking about how Avengers Doomsday is going to set up Secret Wars, which is going to set up the new universe post-Secret Wars. And unlike James Gunn's new DCU, which wasn't really a reboot, it's a glorified reboot in order to keep your friends around, it seems that Marvel has an actual cohesive plan which would make sense of where the X-Men were and why the X-Men weren't around, but they were around. So, yo, what is good, YouTube? Warstu here. If you are new around and make subscribe to never miss any of the Marvel, DC, Kaiju, Monsterverse, pop culture-based content that I try to deliver on a daily basis. Could subscribe channel, turn notifications on, and let me know. Although Marvel's performances aren't very good at the moment, with Spider-Man 4, with Secret Wars, with what could be Deadpool and Wolverine 2, with what could be Doctor Strange 3, with what could be Black Panther 3, with what could be Thor 5. It's still a very promising future for the Marvel Cinematic Universe going forward. Also, check us out on Instagram at Warstu to see the beautiful face behind the beautiful voice. Check us out on Twitter, WarstuJ. And check us out on TikTok, WWarstu. Right, let's get into it. So, Doctor Strange. Where has Doctor Strange actually been? So, at the end of Doctor Strange, Multiverse of Madness, Clea appeared and said to Strange, "You've caused all these incursions, come with me." But why would you trust her? She is the daughter of Dormammu. So a scooper recently tweeted, "Don't trust Clea." Interesting, right? Because she could have massive ramifications for Doomsday and Secret Wars. Is she going to be the right or left arm of Doom? Is there going to be some connection to the Black Priests? There's so much they could be setting up with Doctor Strange and with Clea, because whenever Strange appears again, whether that be in Doomsday, okay, we know he's in Doomsday, but if his movie, Doctor Strange 3, is set in between Doomsday and Secret Wars, this would make the most sense. So, what is Strange going to be doing? Exactly what he was asked to do by Clea. Fix an incursion by any means necessary. Okay, let's go one step further. When we get to see Strange and Clea next, is it going to be in between Multiverse Madness and Avengers? So we need to remember, and this is coming from a report, this will be a good time to remind you that the flow of time is different in the Dark Dimension. Obviously, Captain Numpty, everyone knows this. It is basically non-existent. So even though it's been 3.5 to 4 years since Stephen Strange has been on Earth, imagine how much time would have passed in the Dark Dimension. Meaning, Strange could be omnipotently powerful when he does reappear. Now, do you remember the so-called post-credit scene that I went over that stated Strange would only be in the post-credit scene, where he would appear when this new battle world has been formed, because he's been away in a dark dimension for all this time, and time flows very differently in there, so he wouldn't know anything about it until he comes out of the dark dimension, because as we stated before, that is very different to everything else, and it takes place in a different space-time continuum, if you really want to say it like that. So if the post-credit scene is like that, Strange has been missing from Earth 616 for 3 to 4 years. If he appears outside in the post-credit scene, when everything's already taken place in this movie, that would make the most sense, because there's still this untitled release date for 2027. Some people seem to think that's going to be the X-Men movie. I don't think that's the case. Could be. I don't think that's the case. So if we do get the explainer of where Strange has been in Doctor Strange 3, in between Avengers Doomsday and Avengers Secret Wars, and a lot of people seem to think this is going to be heavily inspired by The Time Runs Out, that would make a lot of sense, because anybody that knows anything about what is coming in the next bunch of movies, meaning the Avengers movies, they're all hinting towards A Time Runs Out and 2015 Secret Wars. So if that is the case, that would be very interesting to see how that will play out. Obviously, if this is the case, they're going to have to go into pre-production and start shooting next year. But we don't know, do we? But that would be insane if that is how they are setting Strange and Clea up. Is Clea going to be behind everything? Is she working with Doom? Who knows? She could have caused the incursions herself. Doom could have sent her there. Who knows? We really don't know. So there's some information going around about how the universe, how everything would be set up, right, going forward past Secret Wars. So it says this, right? The new Earth 616 will combine elements from all the variations of Earth to make it into Earth 616 as it was originally. I know the last sentence may confuse you, so let me try and break it down. When Avengers 5 was still Kang's dynasty, one of the big twists was how Earth we've seen in these films shows was not the original Earth 616, but rather a version of Earth 616 culminated by He Who Remains, removed many heroes from what was originally Earth 616. This would have been called Earth Prime. It's why Doctor Strange vaguely remembers the Fantastic Four as a band they charted in the 60s, instead of them being astronauts who gain powers after going to space, or why Eric never became Magneto, or why Charles was simply a college professor. The reset expected in Avengers Secret Wars would alter the course of events and bring with it an Earth that was always meant to be filled with the Avengers, the X-Men, the Fantastic Four, and we'd basically be in the middle of a timeline where everyone in the world thinks this has always been the case since the beginning of time. Think of an episode in The Flash from season 6 that occurs after Crisis on Infinite Earth when Cisco has a meltdown about the consequences of the episode 10, if I'm not mistaken. That summarizes what Marvel Studios' plans for the main Earth post-Secret Wars would look like. So basically, it sounds like they've got a plan, and James Gunn's DC Universe, there was no plan there. Was there? No. The Flash movie reset everything, but only a few things survived, but it didn't, but it did, but only certain parts of things are canon, but then other things aren't canon. So this reboot sounds interesting because it means they could redo a lot of things they've previously done with different characters, and it means there could be a new Iron Man that shows up, although no one could actually play him. There could be a new Wolverine that shows up, although no one except for Hugh Jackman could play him, so on and so forth. So also in the same article, it states that Scarlet Witch has huge plans, Elizabeth Olsen's version. There's huge plans for her, which, I mean, in saying that itself, you're basically affirming or confirming that the Scarlet Witch, Elizabeth Olsen, Wanda Maximoff, has to show up in either or Doomsday or Secret Wars, but we don't know. There is supposed to be this huge cast announcement part 2 on the 27th, but that's been debunked basically. But it's like I've always said, why would they need to confirm things when everyone's been filming on sound stages? The likes of Alan Cummins has said he's rapped. The likes of Pedro Pascal has apparently rapped. Yet we've seen absolutely no one on set. They shot Spider-Man briefly in Glasgow, yet we've seen a lot of things. Yet they've been shooting Doomsday since April-ish, and all we've seen is Unbox PhD share some sets, photos, some images, some video clips of what appears to be the X-Mansion, of some Sentinels, but we don't really have anything concrete of what is going on in a Doomsday, except for the so-called leaks, right? I'm trying to be better. I'm trying to be more like humble and more respectful and not just say they're fake leaks and fake scoops. So I'm just going to go over all of them like they're actually real. So if this information is true, it sounds pretty cool, right? But I don't think the new X-Men movie is coming before Secret Wars. So Kang deleted the X-Men from the Marvel Universe, essentially. And if this means the X-Men will be in Doomsday, we know that. But it also does mean that random new X-Men could be cast in Secret Wars. And they could have always been there, and that's the way it's going to be explained. The Flash did a good job of it. If I can put the clip in, if it lets me, I will, but it probably won't. But that is a pretty cool way to do it. And to bring the Fantastic Four's universe into the main Prime Earth, it's a pretty interesting way to do it. And it does sound quite likely that's the way they would do it. Kevin Feige said they would recast Iron Man and Captain America, obviously the Steve Rogers version, so on and so forth, and, you know, recast Black Panther, T'Challa, which they should have done before Wakanda Forever, respectfully. They should have done that. I think it's disrespectful. They don't have a T'Challa. Yes, I get it. Shuri was Black Panther in the comics. I get that, but this ain't the comics. This is the live cinematic universe, and T'Challa should be represented as Black Panther. I understand it was a very difficult situation they were in, but I still believe they should have recasted T'Challa already for Black Panther, Wakanda Forever. So like always, guys, let us know. What do you think about this information? Clear is key. Doctor Strange is key. He's been gone years and years. What's he been doing? He wants to fix the incursions however he can, which is absolutely insane when you think about it like that. No matter what, he wants to fix said incursions. But what does this actually mean? It could literally mean anything by any means necessary. It means we could see a different Strange. No one knows what it actually means. So, also in the news, I may talk about this in a different video. They have plans for Kingpin, is to have him face off against Spider-Man, which hasn't changed. A brand new day, it's possible we could see a mid-credit scene, a post-credit scene. That would tease an up-and-coming bout between them. I get it. Sony owns Kingpin as well, and Marvel Studios can only use him in a television sense. They can't use him in a movie sense. That would need to be some kind of new negotiations. But either way, lads and ladettes, it's a really cool time to be an MCU fan. I know they've missed in the last few movies, but as I keep saying, Fantastic Four, yes, they're the first family, but no one knows who they are. And when I say that, I mean the general audience don't. I'm not talking about comic book people. I'm not talking about fans. I'm talking about the general random person down the street doesn't know who the Fantastic Four are. So like always, guys, I'm going to try my best to keep up with all the latest and greatest Marvel news, leaks, rumors. The same on the DC side. It's a little bit harder because there isn't as much over there. And obviously, I'll always make Monsterverse content when stuff actually arises. So like always, guys, I will catch you in another video very soon. Catch ya later.